This is the channel for the woman who's done playing small, the woman who knows there's a fire in her belly, a voice in her bones, and a destiny she's done apologizing for. If you're ready to unleash the woman you were born to be, hit subscribe and join the movement. I'm Leona Schrock, and let's rise together. I feel like this is one of my favorite ones that I talk about all the time with my CEOs and my leaders. It's not something that I hear talked about very often, but it's the way that I teach. And it's also the way that I kind of hit the bullseye in my coaching program. And when we hit this, so I'm the type of coach that people come to me for one thing, and then it ends up shifting everything in their life. And the reason for that is because my coaching is all about identity shifting coaching. It's your nervous system regulation and leaving survival, going into thriving. And the way that we think and feel and believe about ourselves is the way that we will operate and live our life from. That is going to show up in our business. That is going to show up in our relationships. That is going to show up in every area of your life. It's going to show up in your health, all across the board. So, if we're going to change something in your life, let's go to the core root. Let's go straight to what is going on. And because I work with high achievers, we love the need for speed, right? And something that I teach and preach about all the time, and it's something that I had to learn how to navigate and walk in my own life. And it's why I'm so passionate about it, because I lived and breathed it, integrated it, and now I'm living with the results of it, is that if you desire to change something in your life and you are building a multi-million dollar business, if you are literally building $1 million business, if you are living your life and you say that you want to, none of your relationships are working or you don't feel like they are where you desire for them to be, we will always go back and reflect to your relationship with yourself. And I just had this conversation the other day with one of my CEOs because his team is not cooperating the way that he wants them to cooperate. And as the human nature loves to be, of like, well, I can't control human beings, I can't babysit them, I can't be on top of everything all the time. I need people to show up, I need people I can depend on. And all of these are valid points, and they're very logically minded, and there's truth to them. But we will never be able to control people. And we know this. But what you can do is ask yourself, am I leading in a way that is an example of which others will want to follow or show up for? And relationships are mirrors. And as much as I didn't want to acknowledge this or admit this or actually navigate and walk myself through this, was when my three kids were teenagers all in one crack, because now I have a 24-year-old, 21-year-old, and a 17-year-old. There was a time where they were all three teenagers at the same time, and I was single parenting, and I could not go to my parents and ask them for advice because they are Amish, and I was cultivating a brand new blueprint for what I wanted my family to look like. Their father was not there, so it was me, myself, and I, and the Lord, and we were raising these children. And if you know anything about teenagers, they have their own personality. And I remember a piece of advice that I got was that they are crazy and your only job is to not go crazy with them, which some days that was about the only saving grace I was holding on to. But I remember when I learned how to detach myself from them and ask myself, what are they mirroring to me about me? Because your kids will crack your soul open and reveal all the unhealed parts of you to you. And I could have stood back and been like, they're just being teenagers, they're just going through it, they're navigating their own pain through the divorce, which some of that was. I could have made so many different excuses and reasons as to why things were the way that they were. It wasn't that they were being terrible. It was just there was a lot of fights sometimes that were happening until I actually navigated this. And I knew enough within inside of myself that if I want change, it's going to have to happen within me. And I remember there was so often times where I wanted to go bigger in my business, but I kept hearing the download from God of like how Mother Teresa says, if you want to change the world, start in your own home. And I looked at my kids and I was like, I'm raising three leaders. And if I can't lead my three kids in a way that I feel an integrity with, in alignment with, and that I feel like I'm actually doing a good job, I can't go out there and lead my own company and my business in good measure and be in integrity with who I am. So I got the best leadership skills that I could possibly want and have by leading my three children. So here's the thing. When your people in your company or your kids are not showing up the way that you desire, what is happening on the inside of you? What are they revealing to you about you that gets to shift and change? And I'm going to give you a fine example of what was brought to me by my client was that the people show up halfway. It's the contractor will come do this, but he won't fully do the job. One of the other contractors will come along, sometimes show up to do the things when they're supposed to, other times kind of go disappear, not do everything. And then things tend to drag out much longer than they need to, which ends up costing the CEO money, right? In which I asked the CEO, in where are you showing up with yourself this very exact same way? Which the response was, tell me more, explain deeper. I said, where are you being present with yourself? Then you dip and you're no longer being present with yourself. Where do you start being consistent and then you fall off the grid? I mean, I know because I know the CEO's patterns, but I don't always coach to give you the answers. I will hold the space in which you reveal the answers within inside of yourself. And yes, I have extreme high pattern recognition. However, when I hold the space and people walk themselves through it, it integrates a lot deeper and a lot faster. Sometimes I will step in. It depends on the person's personality. But this one, I knew that they could walk themselves through it. It was me activating that in them and bringing that out of them. And so when we were looking at this, the patterns of the team members, and then the patterns of where this CEO is not fully taking authority in their own life, not fully showing up, not fully being present. This is not about being perfect. You don't have to be present 24/7. But if you are not fully committed to your own dreams and you are not fully committed to yourself in showing up as a leader, your team isn't going to be either. Your business isn't going to be either, and your kids are not going to be either. People feel people. We are energetic human beings. And you know how they say you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And this is why business is so hard for some people sometimes because it's such a purification to your identity. This is where I feel like it gets fun, it gets ooey, it's gooey, it's juicy, because it's the fastest way that you can upgrade your level, lock in with your identity, and be shown your blind spots. Is be a parent or be a business owner because you will be reflected really quickly when it comes to your bank account, when it comes to money, when it comes to people, when it comes to your family, when it comes to your relationships. You are going to be shown really quickly your patterns in your blind spots. So instead of cracking down harder on your leaders, on your team, what happens is when you show up fully for you, you show up differently in your business, your energy shifts and changes. And that is what shifts and changes with your team members. That is what shifts and changes with your family. Now, when it comes to the business world, you will lose some people. There might be less of a tolerance for you to put up with some of those things, and you will let them go and you will replace them with different people. But you will have the internal leadership with those people where you build a different team where you can actually lead them. Because whatever you don't deal with over here, you will meet and greet yourself. You can swap out the people, but if you don't actually change the internal identity that you're operating from, you're just going to swap out different humans with the same patterns because those patterns are your patterns that you're being revealed. And that's your relationship with yourself, which is the beauty of it is when you shift that. So the same way as being a mom, for me, the way that I was showing up with my kids, when there was a lot of fighting going on with my kids, there was a lot of inner fight going on the inside of me because I wasn't firmly grounded and rooted in knowing in the mother that I was. I kept feeling like I was failing as a mother. That is how I communicated. That is how I showed up as a mother. That was the relationship that I was creating. Nothing that I'm doing is right. It's never good enough. Oh my gosh, I'm failing. Everything's going to fall apart. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a blueprint for this. I think I just keep making mistakes. And that's literally what I kept cultivating until I got deeply rooted and grounded in my identity as a mother that no, I actually am the mother that these kids need. And I damn well know how to do this. I have the blueprint for it. And their feedback is not criticism. Their feedback is literally an expression of who they are. And when I healed that unworthiness on the inside of me of being a mother, then I responded differently. I communicated differently. I showed up differently. And it shifted my whole household without telling them how to do things differently, without trying to control them, without trying to make sure that everything else is in order. I got my relationship with myself in order. And the same thing happens when we have a business and we show up as a leader. If you want to shift your business, if you want to shift your life, if you want to shift your relationships, anything that you want to shift and change, the external world is a reflection of the relationship that you have with inside of yourself. It's so fun and it's so freeing once you learn this because it all boils down to the core root of your identity. When we get down to the nitty gritty, the ooey gooey, to the core root of what you are dealing with in your belief systems with inside of yourself, and you shift that identity, you shift how you show up, you shift how you hear the world, how you see the world, how you experience the world, how you feel about yourself, everything in your life shifts. You're no longer trying to fix all these little pieces. You'll start noticing because you internalize everything differently because you're no longer operating from that place of pain or unworthiness or betrayal or abandonment. So, if you want to shift your life, if you want to shift your world, if you want to go deeper with this, you know where to find me. Let me know. Get on a session with me or go find me in my other places. The links are down below. And in the meantime, simply observe in how your relationship is with inside of yourself. What is your internal dialogue? What do you think about yourself? What do you believe about yourself? What do you feel about yourself? I will see you next week.